Thank you. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Everybody, just grab a seat. What a wonderful day. It's beautiful. And we have some new folks here today, and we're really happy to have them. Don't worry, I won't embarrass you by saying your name out loud. My name is Sarah McFall, and I'll be your facilitator today. Welcome to Morning Star. Beautiful spring morning. One of my dearest friends is our speaker today, and she and I spent some time being close together, traveling a path simultaneously that exposed me to wisdom and learning that I had no idea. But she and John were, in my opinion, pioneer members of the Sweat Lodge community. And she wrote a book years ago, When Spirit Speaks. And she's generously actually brought some for giveaway, which is a tradition in the Native culture when you gather. She brought 10. Please take them. It is a wonderful recitation of her journey to being open to that way and traveling that path. And because she has a lot to share, I wanted to just read a couple of things that she wrote in the beginning of her book in the foreword that's to the reader. And she says, "When I stepped onto this path, I had no intention of writing a book. I began to be nudged to write, and I kept resisting. Finally, I was told in a ceremony that I would write a book. I still did not do it. Every time I passed my typewriter," now you know how long ago that was, "I knew I was to write. I said I could not write it until I had a computer. A computer was gifted to me within 2 weeks. Finally, I made a prayer with the sacred pipe to ask for confirmation of the signs. The confirmation was undeniable. I undertook the project with renewed dedication to complete and publish the book. Having made a sacred commitment, I knew I would have both seen and unseen help from God at all times. I also knew that the project was not to be undertaken for personal purposes alone, but was intended as a gift for the people. I have done my best. This is my offering. Through this sacred journey which we undertake together, we become relatives." Matakwe Asen. And I want to welcome the Zoomers today. Hello, and thank you for joining, Zoomers. And now, if you will, join me on the front of your songbook and read the vision statement together. Our Sunday gathering is designed to provide a weekly encouragement to individually manifest our highest good and purpose in our lives. Inner direction is the key. We reinforce positive directions for our lives and the infinite potential within us. We seek connections to create an open atmosphere of acceptance of all backgrounds, races, and lifestyles. We come together in a spirit of inclusiveness, embracing all spiritual paths, honoring God in an atmosphere of unconditional love. And now we're going to have our opening song on page 17. I can see clearly now. So if you will stand up and turn to page 17 in your songbook, and let's sing. After we finish singing, then we're going to do our meet and greet.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, there's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day.
I'll follow you. Let's see A minor F2. C A minor F2.
Thank you. Okay, kids,
Settle down.
let's resume our seats, or I won't have snacks. Okay, that was fabulous. My favorite part of this service is how we greet each other. So now it's time to sit in your seats. Take a few deep breaths. Okay, the band is going to play a special song.
Sometimes when you think that you can't go on, when your dreams are dashed and your hope is gone, that's the very time that your heart grows strong. There's a ticket in those tears. It can take you to the place the light comes on. Sometimes when I think this is not my home, that I'm in this world, but it's not my home, well, that's the very time the heart grows strong. Well, my heart is my home. I take it with me everywhere I roam. Sometimes, cause every hill you have to climb can only take you higher. If you've never ever lost, how on earth can you be found? Well, every sadness that you feel goes to show you that your love is real. Sometimes there's a peace that I've come to know, and it feels so fine, and it comforts so. It comes to me whenever I let go of the things in my head, and the present is the only thing I know. Sometimes.
Morning Star, awesome band. And Daryl, that's one of your songs, right? Yeah. Yes, it's a Daryl Clark original. We have Frank, Daryl, Bob, good to see you, and Frank, Daryl, Bob, and Ken. Thank you. Thank you. I mixed you up just to see if you knew who you were. Yeah. And speaking of mixing up just slightly, so we're going to do just a slight different sequence because Susanne is going to do meditation as part of her talk. So I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to have the chant, and the chant is Surrender on page 62. And after the chant, seamlessly, Susanne will get up and give her talk. But first, I want to read a little bit about Susanne, because her bio, if you didn't read it on Morning Star, it was so good. And I got it on good authority that John wrote it. Okay, so, and her heartache is real. It's titled, Beyond Grief, My Dying Son Opened a Portal to Bliss. One day after her 84th birthday, Susanne lost her 59-year-old son. His name was Jet. And what ordinarily would have been the most tragic of stories, he died of the same type of disease that her husband had died at age 39. What ordinarily would have been the most tragic of stories instead mystically transformed into an ineffable experience as her son's passing spirit opened a portal for her to glimpse the incredible beyond. Susanne's here today to share what should have been the greatest tragedy of her life, but instead was an experience of the greatest transcendence. So here's a few tidbits about Susanne that I definitely have John's touch. Susanne is a founding member of Morning Star, whose life, has been blessed with an incredible array of life experiences. She has an MBA, is the author of 2 books, including When Spirit Speaks, and she's brought 10 copies, count them 10, and they're on the table for takeaway. She was a member of the Ruidoso Ski Patrol. She was a dinner partner of Governor Ronald Reagan. She lunched with Gerald Ford at the White House. She once refused a ride with Billy Joel and Richard Gere. Oh, girl. She's a builder of outhouses, a graduate of A Course in Miracles, a meditator, and a firewalker. She's adept at I Ching and the pendulum. She's been tossed by a mule. She sings over 50 songs in Lakota, and I can tell you, she sings a bunch. And she's a veteran of the Sweat Lodge, the Sundance, and the Vision Quest. And I just have chills because I love you so much. Okay, so this is our speaker, Susanne. She will be here after we sing our chant, Surrender, on page 62.
Surrender to the love I hold inside. Surrender, let my love flow free. Just let go and stand inside and know the love that I have come to serve. Surrender
inside and know the love that I have come to serve. Surrender to the love I hold inside. Surrender, let my love flow free. Surrender, just let go and step inside and know the love that I have come to serve. Surrender to the love I hold inside. Surrender, let my love flow free. Surrender, just let go and step inside and know the love that I have come to serve. And know the love that I have come to serve.
I think that's about the best meditation you can have. Dan, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just shorter. Now, let me tell you a little bit about that information that John put out there. I would never have written that. I'm not a name dropper. So anyhow, but all of that was so much fun, and I did have a great 2.5-hour talk with Ronald Reagan and asked him all sorts of personal questions. And then I did have fun with Gerald Ford, and then Billy Joel, and you all will like this. Billy Joel and Richard Gere wanted me to, Richard Gere, not Greer. They wanted me to go with them to the Hilton and spend the night and entertain them the next day, and I wouldn't do it. And I said, I have a husband that died, 2 children at home waiting for me, and they worry about me, and I have to get home. And it was hysterical because they came in and stood across from me. They said, call your children. And they stood across from me and watched me. It was so funny. But I would never have put that in my information. John did, and Sacra liked it. I sent it to Sacra immediately, and Sacra liked it. And so I thought, okay, we'll do that. Now, but what I'm here today for is to tell you all about the reason I'm not doing more of a meditation is what I tried to say what I was going to say today to children and time myself. Well, it was over an hour. So that's why I'm going to take every minute to do this. And you have no idea how excited I am to be at Morning Star. I love Morning Star. I've always loved Morning Star. And actually, the way this got started about me coming and speaking about stepping into another dimension is John and I, 2 weeks after Johnny had died, we were at home and I was trying to figure out what happened to me. Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Because I was ecstatic still. And I thought, this is the worst pain a mother's supposed to feel for her child. And here I am, I'm higher than a kite. I actually thought I'd been drugged. I mean, that's how high I was. And I didn't even tell John for about 4 or 5 days that this is what I was feeling. And it happened. I didn't deserve this gift that I got. I didn't do anything extra for it. I didn't, this was amazing when this took place. It was not explainable, and it was a surprise, it was a big surprise to me. But how this happened is that we had been watching Johnny die for a year and a half, and he had gotten to the point that for a long time, he ended up going through 2 feeding tubes. For a long time, he couldn't take a drink, and he couldn't eat. And he had a hard time, and he was in and out of the hospital, you know, the chaos that goes with it, and in and out of the hospital, in and out of the hospital. And when we found they weren't understanding what was happening to him at first, and then when they got their final diagnosis and that it was cancer, Myrna was the one that called, his wife, and she called and told us that it was definite that he did have stomach cancer, and it was the same gene from Don's when he had it. So Don died at 39, I was 38, and I had 2 high school children. One was 15 and one was 17. Now, the ironic part of this is that Johnny had 2 high school children. He was 59, but he had 2 boys that were 15 and 17 at the time when he got it. So that was the first parallel of what happened with both of them. And when I'm a happy person. Everybody in here that has known me for a long time, I'm a real happy person. And it was amazing that John thought of this, but about after she said Johnny does have cancer and that it's the stomach cancer that Don had, and we'll talk about it later because she couldn't talk very well. And so I told John, and then after a few days, I could feel myself thinking I had grief, horrible grief with Don dying at that time. We hadn't had a paycheck for 6 months because he had run out of time off, and I was the only one making money, and we had 2 teenagers, and 6 weeks before he died, our house had burned, and we had to be moved into a partially built house that was under construction, and it was hard, let's just put it that way. I was teaching positive thinking seminars at the time, and I was also, they had me come speak about death and dying, and this was, Johnny apparently remembered that because he started praying for me. Myrna said he immediately started praying that I wouldn't have as hard a time with him as I did with his dad. And then what happened was, and I'm going to skip forward on this. This is a parallel. 6 weeks before Johnny died, I unexpectedly got a telephone call from a policeman from Santa Clarita, California, saying that my sister had died. Well, and it was unexpected, and I was the only person, I was the only relative. So I thought, okay, how can I handle this? But it was so odd that it was right at about the same time that that had happened before, and that there was something unexpected like that. And so I called my daughter, who lived in California, and she luckily could take over and go there and do everything that needed to be done physically. Now, I still had to do all of this stuff, all the logistics and everything on the telephone as far as getting her buried, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, now, I'm going to skip here a little bit because I'm going to go back to John. After 3 days, when I told John that I could feel myself getting really low inside, going into that same grief that when Don was dying, John sat there and looked at me and he said, you know what? You know what we're going to do? Johnny's not dead. Johnny's alive. So what we're going to do is we're going to get up every morning and we are going to celebrate John Truby and celebrate that we have one more day with him. And so for a year and a half, we did that. And lots of times it wasn't John and I doing it together. He was doing it and I was doing it. But we did both get up every morning and celebrate for a year and a half John Truby. Let me tell you what that did. And I want you to remember this if you ever have a death in your family. That switched me. I can't tell you how fast it switched me. I got happy and happy again and was fine again. And everybody kept saying, I can't believe you can walk around looking like this with your son so bad. But that's called change your thinking. And I didn't do that. I wish I'd have had John around the first time, but that wouldn't have worked. Anyhow. anyway, so the grief I felt at that time was not the grief I felt with Johnny. I didn't feel it for that year and a half that we were watching him and helping him and going to see them. And it did get hard when I watched the same things happen, like Don wasn't able to eat, he wasn't able to eat, et cetera, et cetera. But after we got into it, we were really into it, and then things got so bad that he was only out of the hospital, Johnny, not Don. Same thing happened to Don, though. He was only out of the hospital about 24 hours at a time before he'd have to go to the emergency room and then be put back in the hospital. So there was hardly any time to really get to visit with him on a basis that we could. And that was all right. Now, then I want to talk about, this went on for all that time, for a year and a half, and Johnny kept getting worse and worse. Don quit taking medicines about a week before he died. And I was having to give the shots at that time back there. They didn't have hospice or anything else, or home health. And then Johnny was offered home health and offered hospice, but he turned it down. And he got to just a few weeks before he died, and things started happening. Now, I'm skipping around here on purpose because there's no way to tell you everything I had planned to tell you. And I got up this morning and changed it to 6 lines. I had about 8 pages. And so I changed it to 6 lines. So the last 2 weeks was when he was dying. And we weren't allowed, from the very first time that we talked to Myrna, we were not allowed to mention death. Now, you try to have a child dying and with a family and try not to talk to them about, do you have insurance? Are you going to have any money when this is over? We couldn't have any saying, where do you want to be buried? You know, et cetera, et cetera. There was no way. I tried to mention it once, and they shut me down really fast. They had decided, they were very religious, Johnny and Myrna were, and in a very different church. And I could never have said these things to Morning that I say in Morning Star. But they said, quit, you can't say anything about death because that's negative. And we want everything to be positive. Now, I had taught them to not think negatively, and so that was hard. But they said, we're expecting God is going to heal him. And so there is going to be a healing. And they'd never warned their kids that he might be dying. They kept it very, we just couldn't talk about it. So, now fast forward, John and I had just arrived at a hospital in Plano, Texas. And Johnny was still, he is groggy. Myrna said he had just fallen asleep. And so Myrna and John and I were talking a little bit. And then all of a sudden, and this was about 6 weeks before he died, he says, no, was it that long? It wasn't that long, maybe about 4 weeks. I'll cut it down to 4 weeks. But he sat straight up in bed and looked at us and said, I'm dying at 5 o'clock today. Oh, somebody finally said the word. Now I can ask some questions. Anyway, but he said, I'm dying. And we all just looked at him, including Myrna, because she was the one that was so adamant. Well, we said, oh, you are? And he said, yes. He said, 5 o'clock it is. I said, okay. So then John and I were there, and we said, well, we were planning on leaving at 3 because because I said we have been there's an ice storm coming in. We gave up our room at the hotel, and we overheard them talking about there was not a single room in the entire town left, and in Plano. So we said that we might have to leave at 3, but we would try to stay as long as we could. Okay, then John Pierce came in, their oldest son, who they had been telling, don't worry about him, he's not going to die. You know, he came in, and he's in college, and so he had driven there to Plano from Denison, and and we said, oh, I think I said it. I said, your dad's going to die at 5 today. And John Pierce said, he is? When did that happen? When did that information come? And I said, well, just earlier he told us he was going to die at 5. Well, John Pierce was he was older than Daniel, and he had kind of understood that. He had even told me at one point, Grammy, this is not looking good. And I said, I know. And I said, and at that point, he said this, and this is what somebody else and everybody needs to know, is if somebody's dying, the best thing you can do is talk to them about it. And the best thing you can do for yourself is talk to them about how they feel. Because with Johnny's dad, I had said, what do you think happens in the afterlife? And he said, oh, we go into a hole and we're buried, and we stay there until Jesus returns. I said, that's not the way it works. That's the very first time that I had ever known he thought that way. And it was only a few weeks before he died that I asked that question. And then I said, you're supposed to go up there and you're supposed to, I want you to do this right now. I said, you tell God and Jesus, I want the answers here. I don't want to wait for them. And that I need them now. And he said, that's not the way it works. I said, I didn't ask if that was the way it works. I said, I'm just making this one request. You're dying, you're leaving me. I'm going to have a lot of problems after you leave, and I want help. And so I said, you have to give it to me. So you have to at least say, yes, I will tell them. And he said, okay. I said, and then I said, ask nicely. Anyway, anyhow, so that was what had happened with him. So Johnny, here we were with Johnny, and he had announced he was going to die. And John Pierce said, well, this was John Pierce's response. Well, look, Dad, I plan to leave here at 4. He said, I have a class at 5 I have to go to. So he said, I plan to leave here at 4. He said, but he said, you know, if you're going to die at 5, I'll try to wait until 5. He said, but if you're a few minutes after 5, I have to leave. So then, okay, so we got through John Pierce, and even before John Pierce left, I took the liberty of saying, well, if you're going to die at 5, where do you want to be buried? Because we didn't know. Nobody knew. And he said, well, I don't know. So we ended up talking about Paul's Valley, the cemetery. We have tons of relatives there. So he said, I want to be buried in Paul's Valley. Do you hear that, John Pierce? You make sure I get buried in Paul's Valley. And John Pierce said, okay. And next thing that happened was Daniel came in. Daniel's the young one, and he had brought his guitar. He played a song, Gratitude. Some of you may know it. He played that in every hospital stay that Johnny had. He went and played Gratitude to him. And then Daniel came in, and Daniel didn't take it the same way John Pierce did. Daniel had really told me that Dad's going to live. We don't have to need to worry about him dying. He is going to live. And when Johnny told Daniel himself, and Daniel just burst into tears. It was really hard on Daniel. But John and I had to leave at 4. We had no place to stay. And we did go ahead and leave. And Johnny said he understood. Then the next thing, a few weeks went by, and we had, during those few weeks, we're now into the end of December, and we had family in and out because of Christmas and New Year's, and the family members had all come to say goodbye to him. We all knew he was dying, but they weren't admitting it. And so they had to say goodbye without them realizing that they were saying goodbye. Next thing that took place was we got to the end of the time, and this is where it really got interesting. And I've spent so much time telling you all about this. Am I doing okay? 5 minutes? 6? Okay. Anyway, we got to the end, and the most exciting thing happened. This was about a week before he died. And we were in another hospital at the time, and he was in the hospice ward, which he said he would not ever go into, but they wouldn't let him in the hospital unless he said he would go into the hospice ward. And what happened was he had, one morning when John and my daughter, who had flown in, and I got to the hospital, we were talking around the bed. Oh, and he was in the bed, and all of a sudden he interrupted, and he had gotten to the point You know, when at the end, when you can't have water and you can't, your tongue gets thick and stiff and you can't talk very well. But he said, turn to the right. It's important. So we turned to the right and looked, and it was a big picture window. And we said, is something happening? And he said, yes, 3 lights are coming in. That's why I wanted you all to play this little light of mine later. But 3 lights were coming in. And so they came in. Then in a few minutes we said, are they here? And he said, yes, they're here. And he had to answer in short quips. And then we asked if he could see God's light in us. And he said, yes, like that was natural. That's, you know. And then he was able to tell us the color of the lights that we each had. And John was out in the hall. He missed all this. He was talking to another daughter on the telephone. Right after that, what happened was he started doing his hand like this. And I said, Johnny, are you trying to tell us something and you can't say it, so you're trying to write? And he said, yes, but he had no paper. And so Dawn handed him, that's our daughter, handed him a paper and pen, and he wrote down what he wrote. He said, let me show you. I tried to do a fast scribble this morning. He drew a circle, and he put a dot in the center. And he said, I'm the atom. And then underneath, what the paper said was, God, please save, and some of you may know this, Schrodinger's cat. And it's from a quantum theory in about 1935. I didn't know anything about that. And it's about Schrodinger's cat. And in that theory, there's a cat that's in between living and dying. And he was pointing to the dot, and that was him. He was in between living and dying. And then he said, he wrote, and I put equal signs here, because he did. He said, God equals love, loves all. And he was able to get this out, but he'd have to say a few words and then wait a minute and then say a few more words. God is in the trees, all trees. God forgives all. Everybody forgives everything. God equals all. God is in all. Every person. Well, this is what I had been praying for, that he would come to forever. And so when he did that, I immediately thought, you know what? Our prayers are definitely being heard. Our prayers, in fact, every word we say is probably definitely being heard by Spirit. And so Johnny found religion at a very young age, and he became more and more rigid, slowly, but then it's like he met God on the path as he was dying, and he returned to his original. He also quit calling me Mom at one point and called me Mommy. And I'm getting the sign that it's 2 minutes. I have 2 minutes. I want to tell you all that what happened next blew me away. The next morning I woke up so ecstatic I was going to burst. And I'd felt this way 3 days in a row. And I could not believe what was happening. And then I started seeing that I was in a bubble. And it was God and Johnny and me. And that we had 2 funerals. one in Texas, over 300 people showed up. And then one in Paws Valley that I told hardly anybody about, that we were just going to have like a visitation before we buried him. And there ended up being about 35 people there. And I wondered, there were 2 people from Morningstar there. And I thought, well, I see them and I haven't seen them in a while. And if anybody can tell what happens and that I'm not myself, it will be them. Because for every day I was in a bubble and I have to quit. And that happened. And then I started feeling like I was being pulled up, up, up. And I got so far, I felt like I was in the energy of heaven. And it was an energy that was unbelievable. And I thought if everybody could be in this energy, they'd want to go. So that's it was unreal. To this day, I have not shed a tear. I have had no grief. I had tons of grief with Don. And so this is not to diminish anybody's grief, because we all grieve differently. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm sitting here. Sarah's blinking her eyes at me like, stop. Anyway, I love you all. I'm honored to come here and share this story with you. I am so careful about who I tell this to. I told it to Sacra and a little bit of it, and thank you. And I hope you have a great day.
And I saw her. I saw her at Johnny's funeral. So did Candace. She was levitating. And she stood up in front of everybody and she said, and she had this big grin on her face. And she was like almost tearfully happy. And most of the people are going, oh yeah, that's Susanne. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Now, we're going to ask for your help to contribute financially if you have money, and if you want to contribute, we use it to keep Morningstar going, and also we contribute to Meals on Wheels and Food and Shelter for Friends, and we take care of the tiny house. And it's good to see Adrian here, our tiny house liaison. Thank you, Adrian. But let's say the offering prayer, and then the basket will go around. Recognizing God as the source of my supply, I joyously give of God's abundance, which is blessed and multiplied through me, and so it is.
Two, three, four.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Hiding under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hiding under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine. Hiding under
little light shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you again, Morning Star, awesome band. And also thank you to setup team. I know Roger was on setup, Mike helped, Janice did some, Karen always, Mary, of course, she's our financial person. Thank you, everyone. Olivia, rock on. Thank you so much, Tech Queen. And the new people, Haley, right? Yes, welcome. So good to see you. Yes, and Leo, is this your daughter again? No? No? Okay. John, Suzanne, so glad to have you up from Paul's Valley. It's really awesome. Thank you. We have some announcements. Candace, yes, that's awesome. Candace is here. So I believe today is the board meeting because we're doing it on a different day because next Sunday is Mother's Day. And I am usually the administrative steward who takes minutes at the board meeting, but I will not be in attendance today. So whoever's going to be on the meeting on Zoom today, and everybody's welcome, please somebody pony up and take the minutes. Thank you. And we'd love to have people on the board if anybody's interested in attending and joining. But we get to come back next week and do this all over again. Joan Brinkworth next week, Healing Through the Mother. In the special Mother's Day gathering, Joan will share her personal story of healing, how childhood experiences shaped her as a seeker, and how that path led her through a variety of modalities and mystical doorways. She does mention complex relationship with her own mother. Go figure, right? Anybody else? Through storytelling, teaching, and a gentle tapping practice, Joan will invite us to connect with the archetypal energy of the mother, not as an external figure, but as an inner presence of unconditional love, nourishment, and wisdom. Yes. Also want to say a congratulations to Amy. She had an event this weekend. Amy Thurman, you rock, totally rock. Yes, and when I said that about the healing presence, that made me think of you. Yeah. Let's see, what else? We're going to say the prayer for protection. Any other announcements? Yes, Miss Jeannie. Norman Pride Parade, 7:30. Be there or be square. Where does it start? 7:30. Where? Oh, downtown. Okay. Downtown, Main Street, Pride Parade, 7:30. Be there. Let's support each other. Love each other, as you were saying. Okay, the prayer for protection, then we're going to circle up and say sing the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well, and so it is.
Yes,
Morning, Ann.
Laura. Well, I am doing home renovation stuff. I've been putting in lots and lots of hours this week because the HVAC is going to be installed tomorrow. And
Wow.
so I've been running wires in the ceiling and so on. I've got to get insulation in place, and then Scott, and it's Scott Williams' rental property that I'm helping renovate to then move into. So anyhow, that's what you see. You see roof rafters in the background. I'm trying to get stuff done before it gets too hot.
So it sounds like things are finally moving.
Well, the HVAC is being installed.
Well, that's good. That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
There's all sorts of other stuff that still needs to be done.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So are you going to be at the board meeting today?
I will. I'm going to have to join you from a coffee shop.
Okay.
I won't have my laptop with me, and my Zoom on my phone is not set up to be the host.
That's fine.
So that's why I was asking if you could do it.
That's fine. No problem.
So Sarah won't be able to join us to take minutes, and so I'll take minutes. I don't mind doing that, and because I know the thrust of the meeting needs to be about summer speaker recruitment,
Okay.
and that's why we're having it a week early.
Right. And I see Mary sent the financials.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, she and I spoke this morning, and I'm like, I woke up and I realized I hadn't sent out the meeting reminder because I've just been putting in so many hours. It's just my mind has just been focused on this project.
Right. Right.
And so she's like, oh yeah, and I haven't sent out the financials. And so she actually sent them out, which is awesome. But
So
I
what
haven't
about an
had-
agenda?
I haven't created one.
Okay.
So all it is accepting the last month, April minutes, or approving the April minutes, accepting the financial statement, and then summer speaker discussion.
Okay.
So, hi Jocelyn, hi Joyce, hi Liz. If any of you have recommendations on a speaker for Morningstar during the summer, either in person or especially through Zoom, if you know of anyone, and that would be most appreciated. Sacra is taking a very, very well-deserved hiatus, as usual. So she, because she's the heavyweight champion of the speaker recruitment during the regular year, and then the board pinch hits for June, July, August.
Yeah.
So anybody that, if you know of anyone who, because we've had a couple of great performers last year. We had Suze Ogden, who came and played and spoke about her spiritual journey. And we also had Tiffany Couch, who leads drumming. I'd love, I mean, there was so much energy during those. It would be awesome to have somebody like that, if you can think of someone, or if you can think of a poet or any creative that's on their spiritual journey. That would be fantastic. The summer kind of lends itself to us introducing new things.
Mhm.
I'd like to recommend, I always recommend the same guy, Elder Gideon again. People seem to like him an awful lot with the Sophians. So I'd like to recommend him again.
Okay, Jocelyn, do you have his contact information? Do you know? Does he have a website or on YouTube, or?
If you could contact him through the forum if necessary, or via Facebook. He's got a Facebook page.
Okay, Elder Gideon.
Elder
Laura, were
Gideon.
you able to write that down?
Yes, yes, I
Awesome.
remember him well.
Oh, good. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. I don't know if I've ever seen him speak. But if he comes highly recommended, then of course we would love to invite him to come back. Because it hasn't been recently. He hasn't spoken recently, I don't believe.
May have been, was it last year, Jackie, do you think, or 2 years ago?
You're muted.
I think so. It's
Okay,
been a little while.
that's okay. He's always good.
Liz, do you have any recommendations that you can think of, or if they pop into mind, if you could email us,
Okay,
let somebody know, because we would really appreciate input on who we can reach out to. I mean, we're happy to reach out to them and invite them, but if somebody has a personal connection, that's always good. If we can say, oh, so and so, who you know highly recommended you, if we would love for you to come back, or if you haven't been here before, we'd love to hear you speak, type thing. It's always great to have a personal connection somehow.
right, right. I have recommended a lot of people other years, but I'll give it some thought. And at the current time, I'm preparing for a trip to Denver, so I'll be there the next 2 Sundays.
Okay.
So,
Well, we've got June mostly covered. So except for the last Sunday, and then we need to, fill up July and August.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
see you later.
All right.
All right.
Good to see
Liz.
you. Bye,
So,
Liz.
and the other thing is, we don't have to have I mean, we can always do, like, I don't know, 5th Sunday or the last, we can.
Well, that requires someone to be very organized and put in a lot of work to create a 5th Sunday.
Yeah,
So there is that.
yeah.
I can't, I did step up and say that I would speak the last Sunday of May,
Yeah,
and, but I haven't been able, because Sacra couldn't find a speaker for that Memorial Weekend.
mhm.
And so, anyway, so I've been thinking about making that interactive. But, either way, it's a lot of work on my part, and I am, I'm snowed under,
Yeah.
basically.
But I remember once doing it was kind of like a sort of a question and answer thing where we had several spiritual questions, and people then shared experiences. And that was, I really liked that, learning more about, you know, people in Morningstar. People would get up and speak and talk about it.
I think that's a great idea. Are you willing to organize it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm willing to think about it because I
Alright.
enjoyed it at the time, and I think other people did too. I remember Jeannie and Johnny
Yeah,
got up and talked. So I just don't remember what the topic was, but I think that, you know, the Morningstar membership has a lot to share.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it would be a great community building exercise where we get to understand each other better. I absolutely agree. I'd love to do that. Only I don't have the bandwidth right now to even think about it, and I would love it, but I can't. I don't have it. I don't have the energy.
All right.
So anyhow, I need to jump off and work about 45 more minutes before driving over to have the meeting,
Okay.
the board meeting. So thank you so much, Jocelyn, for your recommendation. Really do appreciate it. I'm actually glad that I attended through Zoom this morning because I kept tearing up listening to Suzanne's story. And so much of that resonated, and what a joy it was to hear from her. I took care, I was the care manager for essentially my brother-in-law back when I lived in Illinois, and he died in our house. And so, you know, it is a unique experience being right there with someone when they pass. He didn't have the same experience. He lived in fear. And so it was a joy to hear Suzanne's son and his wonderful transition. So, but as you can tell, I'm still quite emotional about it, but very grateful to hear about it. So love to you guys.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay. All right.
All righty.
Bye.
Hey, Joyce.
Hi, who is IQM?
That I think is Olivia's iPhone or something. That's one of, or it's a laptop that belongs to the Morningstar Tech. Well,
Sorry, I keep glancing out the window. There are two of last year's fawns in the yard, and they're looking thinner than I've seen them look before, and I'm struggling with temptation to go get them some food, and at the same time the knowledge that we're trying to stop doing that because then they come to the yard and eat everything else. So I'm having a little, that's what I keep kind of glancing over at.
so what are they?
Fawns.
Oh, fawns. That's what I thought you said.
Yeah,
Okay.
they aren't brand new ones. They were last year's.
Yeah.
Fawns.
Yeah.
But they're with their mom, and I'm very tempted to get up and go feed them. So if I suddenly disappear, that's what I do.
We'll know where you're going.
I did get up a minute ago and slice an apple for them and toss out one apple, but they three had to share that one apple. That wasn't much.
Yeah. And I'm looking out because I see there's a huge crow outside and lots of other birds. And then I'm looking to see if the alligator is on. So the alligator is usually sunning itself on the lawn, at the bottom of the lawn, just, you know, where the water hits. And so he was there during the week, and I don't see him now, but it's not sunny now, so that's what I'm looking at. And then there's an egret out there, and Max says that she has been there by herself for a long time, and she's waiting for all her friends to come back. Well, our little lake is ringed with egrets in November, and he said they must have gone off without her, so we've called her Lulu.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's just amazing watching wildlife, isn't it?
yeah.
Even squirrels and their antics. I just love them all. How are you doing this week, Joyce?
I'm doing pretty well. Had a couple of fun days. That's always nice.
Yeah.
And at the same time, more issues with the ex-husband's problems. And
Oh, what's going on with him?
well, he wouldn't listen to the financial advisor or his daughters about a deadline the financial advising office gave him that he had to close his account and transfer the money, or they would just issue him a check. So they just cut a check and issued it to him because he wouldn't believe him that they could do it. And he lost 150,000 doing that.
So what was that issue?
Well, to get attention in the last few years, ever since his sister and the sister who kind of watched after him after I quit,
Yeah.
he drove her off, and then a younger sister kind of took over for her, and she got unhappy or fed up with him and dropped him. And so he started to get attention. He would go to financial advisor, first at Morgan Stanley, open an account, invest in stocks. And then he started showing up like every day, whenever he wanted, because you have a duty to me now because you have my money and you have to listen to me. And so Morgan Stanley wrote him a letter at some point saying, we're not going to continue the relationship and you need to move your money.
Really?
So he moved it.
Wow.
So he moved it. He believed them, and he moved it to someone else. And then they did the same thing. And he listened and he moved it to Edward Jones. And then on February 10th, Edward Jones wrote him that kind of letter. And he just decided that they couldn't do that. Something about, he had a very young, new advisor there, and somehow he felt like he was dominant, and they couldn't do that, and he wouldn't listen. And so since he didn't, and my daughters, he sent them the letter, and they tried to tell him, yeah, you have to do that. And I told, one of them quoted me, she said, I talked to a lawyer who said that they can write you a letter and end the relationship, and then they have no more duty. And he said, that sounds like something your mom would say, so he ignored it. And anyway, they cashed he had some nice stocks, and they cashed it now when the stock market's low, and he lost a bunch of money. And so then he's upset and wants somebody to bail him out again and figure out. He could have listened between February and last week, and he wouldn't. So anyway, he created another problem for himself.
So what is he? I mean, we do this sometimes if we have clients that are badgering us, basically calling all the time. And
yeah,
you know, and what Brian basically does is raises the price in the hopes that they'll go away. But sometimes he will just say, if somebody comes in and he just doesn't get a good feeling about them, if he thinks that they're doing something shady with their taxes, he'll just say, no, I'm not taking your case. So is it, but I didn't realize that brokerage firms did. So what was he doing? He was going in and badgering people or bullying people, or?
I don't know exactly. I know he'd start he would go in, try too frequently, trying to just get attention. But then he would start saying, well, you didn't do this the way I need to talk to X because he didn't do what I told him. And so he'd then start accusing them of, and he'd say, oh, I'm not making any accusations, but I don't think he did what what I told him. So he has to sit down to me and explain what he did.
Mhm.
And it would lead to, him accusing them of mismanaging, and they didn't want to work with a client who was accusing them, no matter what they did, of mismanaging. So they dropped him. This last one, I think, really did, but it's always hard to tell because he'll take one fact that is true, and then things that he thinks, this could have happened, and suddenly in his mind it did happen, and that becomes a fact.
Mhm.
And so we never know exactly how much is true of what he says and how much isn't. So anyway, we've had to spend some time. I thought maybe my girls would maybe a conservatorship would be appropriate, but they don't want the responsibility since they don't live where he does. It would be hard to do that. But
Yeah,
at the
to
same
monitor.
time, he needs somehow to have things taken out of control. And the daughter who's a psychiatrist, she doesn't. I didn't know that a conservator could necessarily be held liable for the actions of the person that they're conservator of. But she has had to testify in some trials where parents who were conservators of an adult child who was not competent, since the victim of, I don't know if it was a car accident or what, since they couldn't sue the person who did the action, they then try to sue the conservator. And so she doesn't want to have that kind of liability for him.
Sure.
So anyway, that's, and I actually emailed Sarah McFall, because she was a family law lawyer
Right.
and I emailed her, but she didn't email back. I asked her if she still did any part-time practice after retirement, or if she could refer me to someone in Norman who does conservatorships,
Mhm.
but she didn't reply.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'm looking into that. I don't want to be helping him. So, but I'm helping, I need, my daughters want me to help them. They think I have more time than they do. And one daughter says, I don't feel any responsibility. I didn't pick him, meaning I did. So I have responsibility to, I don't know.
Mhm.
So that's been my week. How's yours been?
Well, it seems like it's been really busy. I don't know why. I had a couple of doctor's appointments. I got my hair cut. And, Friday night, I always go over to my neighbors. And Max watches, he attends temple on Zoom. And so for about an hour or so, I go over and have a glass of wine with them. And we just have a laugh. They're 2 doors away. We live in a cul-de-sac. And all of the people in the cul-de-sac are very close. There are 5 couples.
So nice.
Yeah. And the
That's
women.
the way it was for us in Norman, but not here.
Yeah. And I think we may have talked about that before. So the women go out for lunch sometimes, and we
Nice.
get together in one of the houses for Christmas. And so then Saturday night we go over and play cards with them, with my neighbors, Ron and Gere, just the 4 of us. And we just play for an hour.
Mhm.
It's this silly game called Skip Bo.
I've heard of it.
Have you? Yeah, it's a card game. I don't know if you've heard of it, Jackie, but it's, kind of a a little card game that we just play, and you know, so that's nice. And the weather's getting nice, so we're starting to sit outside again. And we sit in our driveway. We pull out the camping chairs, sit in the driveway, and our driveway is at the back of the cul-de-sac. So when people are driving down the main road in the development, they don't even see us. And there are a lot of trees covering there's a lot of shade where we sit. And so then different neighbors drop in with their dogs. And I was sitting there the other day reading something on my iPad, and the next thing, this little ball of fur came running up into me and scared me, little Kenzie next door. And so they'll come and pull out some more chairs, and it's really nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that for 30 years in Norman, and
I know.
thought it'd be the same here. Similar ages, no reason for it not to be. Just people have very different attitudes.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, now we've been here in this house 20 years maybe.
Oh,
20 years, Max is saying yes, 21 years. And had the same neighbors, but the neighbors on my left, she was a nurse. She was in the ICU, the neonatal ICU, and he's still working and will always work. He'll never quit. So we never saw them. I mean, for the first, until about 3 or 4 years ago, we hardly ever saw them. But we've always been friendly with the ones 2 doors down. So it's just a real nice neighborhood, and you know, we really like it. So we're going through, let's see, yesterday. Oh, I read a joke yesterday. You'll appreciate this, because it's probably still going on. One of the things about marriage, one of the great things about marriage is that you get to ask, what are your thoughts on dinner every day for the rest of your life? And so, you know, we're kind of getting tired of that discussion. I'm the kind of person who, you know, I would quite happily not eat or just have an apple or something. I mean, if Max weren't here, I know I wouldn't eat properly. Max is very regimented about his lunch and his dinner and his salad at dinner, and but he cooks too, so you know, we always cook together, so that's nice. But that's it, just life goes on. We did, have I ever talked to you about our Wednesday night group with Karen Marks, our Skype group? Oh, it was.
I didn't know you were continuing. That's great.
Yeah, so we've had the spiritual book club for over 15 years. And that's how long I've known.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah.
I knew it pre-existed all the other Zoom groups, but I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, it's probably over 15 years now. That's how we met Karen. We met her through a Science of Mind minister, Jim Young. She and her partner at the time, Pete. And we met them on a conference call. It was like a discussion group, a conference call. And then finally we got Zoom and got to see each other. And people have dropped off over the years. We were meeting every Wednesday night for about an hour and a half, talking about, you know, all different topics. And then Jim, the minister, decided to retire a couple of years ago. And so that just left Karen and Max and myself and Joe, this friend Joe from Raleigh. Now, Joe's been with us maybe 4 or 5 years. But one of those things where he came one night to our meeting and he just slotted right in. It was like he had, you know, that kind of person. It's like he had always been part of the group. Really nice guy. And so anyway, now we're doing it every 2 weeks. But last week we had a meeting and Joe didn't come. and didn't send me a message. And very unlike him. He'll always send a text, I'm going to be late, da, 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 da. That was Wednesday, and I texted him and, you know, left him phone messages. And finally, Monday morning, I said, you know what, something's not right. Got on Facebook. It's a message from his daughter saying that he had died.
Hi.
Yeah.
And so I tried contacting his daughter and some cousins who had written on the Facebook page, and his daughter responded and finally told me that he died of a sudden heart attack.
Mm.
So that has just really kind of thrown us for a loop.
Yeah.
So we got to, I said to Karen, let's meet this week. We weren't supposed to meet this week, but we decided to meet.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jim, the minister, who we're still in touch with, and who Joe was often in touch with, he came as well.
Oh,
So we had a nice kind of reunion. But yeah, you never know the last time you're going to see somebody.
right, right. I've
In
had,
fact, he has cousins in Savannah.
Yes, his cousins.
He comes to Savannah. Well, he came to Savannah frequently, and he had cousins there.
Well, Jim said that he was planning a trip to Savannah the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Last time we talked to him.
probably on his way to Savannah.
Who
Anyway,
knows? You might live right next door to them. You never know.
yeah,
Life is full. I've always said reality is stranger than fiction.
yeah.
well,
Anyway,
that was very
that was very sad.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
yeah, and very spiritual, because now he was 75, but he learned it all from his father. So his father, you can imagine, he was
Passed it on.
much older, but was always reading these kinds of spiritual books. And Joe was younger, and that's how he got involved with it.
Mm.
And he was in a cult when he was younger. He was part of a cult and would tell us about that.
And dropped a little bit of acid.
Or peyote, we're not sure what, but
Uh,
very spiritual experience. And I don't know if it was mystical or, you know, but he can still remember it very clearly to this day.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's been like a hectic kind of a week. I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit quieter this week.
each time I read of a friend experiencing that, as it's happened with a couple of my high school girlfriends who, you know, it wasn't in the plans, but that weekend it was sudden, and next thing we hear, 2 days later, their spouse is gone. And so whenever I hear that, it does remind me that could be me next, could be my spouse. And so appreciate the day, even if it's a hard day, even if there are things that aren't good in it, even if there's pain in it, whatever, appreciate it and appreciate that person who could possibly not be there tomorrow. You just don't know at this point.
And be aware of it.
Yeah,
Be conscious of your days and not just drift through them.
right.
Well, the problem is we take life too much for advantage
For
Yeah.
granted.
for granted. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
we don't realize how precious it is.
yeah. But it is true. When I was talking to my aunt is 92, my aunt in England, I went to visit last year, and I call her every week. She's my dad's sister, and she's kind of the last of that generation of the family. And she's been sort of, well, she lost her daughter, my only first cousin, last year. And my cousin was only like 63 or 64. But she'd had a lot of health problems over the years. And so she's got a certain amount of depression from that. And it was just past the year. She died in January of last year. So, and she's just kind of feeling down and feeling sorry for herself. And so I tried to give her a little pep talk, you know, yesterday and say, you know what, Mary, that you can only control the things that you can control. Don't be worrying about what might happen, you know, and just take every day it comes. I said, try to find something that you really enjoy in every day. And it's amazing that you have to say that to people.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
but if you're really, you know, your
It's-
thoughts completely control.
Right, it's so easy to become negative and look at all the problems and we have to fix this and oh, there's this plant, this weed growing that we don't like, and, you know, as if that's important.
I
And
know. Yeah, like she's got a problem with her hot water tap. I said, you know what, Mary, it'll get fixed.
yeah,
Don't be worrying about it. Don't be thinking about it. Don't be wasting
Yeah.
time on it, you know? So, and I think that's all you can do. Try to pass what we've learned. I was just thinking today that when I was talking to Mary about this, I was kind of listening to myself and watching myself and saying, thinking about when I've always been a positive sort of person, I think. But I don't know if I would have learned or gone in this direction at all if it hadn't been for Max. You know, when I met him in Paris in '79, you know, I never thought about spiritual stuff. I didn't go to mass anymore.
Well, tell her what you said to me about
Oh,
the
yeah.
book.
He was, whoops, sorry. He was reading a book by,
It was Gurdjieff, wasn't it?
or was it Erhard
Ouspensky.
Seminars Training? But anyway, he was reading a spiritual book. And I said to him, you really believe that stuff?
Except that she didn't use the word stuff.
Well, I was trying to be polite here.
She used the word, the S word.
Yeah, the S word. And so years later, I'd say to him, you know, why was it that you married me? Because he married relatively late. How old were you? 39?
41 when I got married.
Yeah, 41 when we got married. And, you know, he had all these different girlfriends and people he'd lived with. And I said, why is it that, you know, I was the one that you decided to marry? So he always said, well, I always figured you had potential. So I guess he was right. And, you know, ever since I've known him, he's been reading spiritual books, and not just spiritual, but, you know, scientific. And he's still reading at night saying, I don't understand a word of this. You know, this is the second time I've read it. And so.
And listening to the background of, what was her name? The woman who spoke.
Oh, Susanne.
Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Listening to her background, and I'm thinking of all the stuff that I've done over the last, well, over 40, almost 50 years when I started this stuff. And I feel like I've done nothing compared to what she's done. You know, it's just.
It's pretty amazing what people do.
And every day, you know, we do this meditation every morning with Morning Star, not Morning Star, with
Richard. Yeah.
And they talk about all these different levels, and then I hear there's more levels, and then more levels, and more levels, you know, and I don't know.
Yeah.
The Dana's group being together for 50 years. They've been studying this for 50 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You come on Thursday nights now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's amazing.
I like to listen to her lectures, but I can't do the meditation because it's too late at night for me.
Yeah.
And I'll fall asleep. I'm sure I will. And then that'll mess up my sleep for the rest of the night.
Yeah. So he goes off and has a shower, and I do the
But
meditation.
I like listening to her lectures. And everything.
Yeah.
We told her that I was doing that.
She's fine.
She forgave me.
But yeah, it's just, people are amazing. Well, look at what you've done. Oh my God, what you accomplished.
I've had an amazing life. And so I can't, you know, begrudge any of the difficulties that I go through at this point, because it's just, I've just had so much that I've been given such a fantastic life that it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what kept me from ever getting depressed when I have had to go through the stuff, the illness stuff and so on. And
And with your husband.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's true. You always have that, intellectual part. You always had the legal stuff, and I think keeping your brain active like that, that's why I'm having a hard time retiring. I told my boss I was retiring at the end of last year. Here I am still, putting in a timesheet.
Well, Max is keeping his brain active with the reading that you described, and some people can still consult. I gave that up. I still update one of my books every year. So today, before we started, I was proofreading chapter 11 to send it off to the publisher next year. So I do that. But my husband, who has totally retired, he does chess on computer to keep his mind active, and solitaire on computer. And those are ways that he makes sure he keeps his mind in. And then my sister does bridge and mahjong. And so there are different ways that you would be able to still keep your mind involved and exercised, even if you retire.
And
really
I'm getting ready in a few minutes to do the Wordle. Are you familiar with the Wordle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't done it, but I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, I do that every morning. And there's a friend of ours who's also, we met through.
Well, you know Mike from New Jersey.
Sure.
Yeah, well, Mike and I compete with each other on Wordle.
Oh,
And the last couple of days we've tied.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he lets me know how he's doing. I let him know how I'm doing. And
And the spelling bee. You guys do the spelling bee as well. I do that too. So that's all really important.
And that's what I'm getting ready to do. As soon as we stop talking, I'll lay down for my afternoon nap with my Wordle. And I did get Genius, by the way.
I haven't even looked.
Yeah, I got Genius.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, I'm going to go because I want to get some lunch before the board game.
Yes.
And anyway, it's
Jackie, I thought you were asleep.
She was
Nope.
listening.
I've been here.
Yeah.
I thought you drifted off to dreamland.
All right. I will bring up Elder Gideon at the board meeting in a little bit. Jackie
He's just an excellent speaker.
Yes, he is. Yeah, we've always enjoyed him. All right, sounds good. See you.
one of these days we'll have to meet halfway between Savannah and
Charleston.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to do that. All righty. Sounds good.
Next week.
See you all
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.